DeMeco Ryans is what we thought he was. The biggest lesson, the most important thing that happened last week when the Miami Dolphins came to town. To explain it, we got to go back to DeMeco's press conference, and we got to show you what happened last week. It'll all make sense in the locker room.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time.
Welcome to the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Number one source for radio entertainment. This is the number one source for Texans daily digital content. Subscribe, like, right along. We talk to players, coaches throughout the week. We're at all of the games. We've been doing this for less than a year, and we are going strong. Always going to give you the pulse of what's going on and what matters and what you should be thinking about as a Texans fan. Texans coming off getting smacked around at NRG a little bit, 28-3 in the preseason game. How much do you want to make of that? I'm not going to tell you how to fan. I am going to say, though, that Lovie Smith didn't lose a preseason game and David Culley lost one. So do with that what you want. Also, I think that the best thing to happen last week could actually be the most important thing when it comes to evaluating DeMeco Ryans as a head coach. And in order to lay this out for you, let's go back to when DeMeco Ryans was introduced as head coach of the Houston Texans. And let's hear what DeMeco Ryans said about this young core. And you remember what we were saying when DeMeco Ryans was hired early on. From an on-field perspective, the most popular things that were being said were Derek Stingley, a number 3 overall pick, is going to benefit in this system. Jalen Petrie is going to benefit in this system. And Christian Harris is going to benefit in this system. I'm not going to throw out the Fred Warner thing or anything like that, but that was what we said. Let's hear from DeMeco Ryans. This was DeMeco Ryans at his press conference talking about working with those guys.
That's what excites me the most, is being able to work with young guys and young guys who are talented. Stingley has outstanding talent, scouted him the last year, and I know the talent that he has, know the competitor that he is. Right, going to put him in position to make a lot of plays for us. Right, put him in a position where he can excel and showcase his talents. Right, seeing Jalen Petrie, loved him coming out of Baylor, loved the blitzing, loved the play speed of Petrie, and just to see him come out this past year and the way 5 interceptions, the way he attacked the ball, man, Jalen, we got to continue to do that. Right, we got to continue to take the ball away. Christian, linebacker, fast, right, physical linebacker. Those are the type of players, right, we can build around. So that does excite me when you have the young talent that we have here. That does excite me, and I'm most encouraged by seeing a player, right, whether it's a Fred Warner or Trey Greenlaw, guys I've worked with, who when people say they're not that good, right, they're not good enough, that excites me the most, right, because I know, right, what it takes. It just takes time. Right, it takes belief. Right, it takes pouring everything you have into a young man like a Fred Warner, who.
You guys get the point, and I want to go play for him right now. I definitely wouldn't be doing what the other guys are doing, but I want to go play for DeMeco Ryans right now. And those are the 3 guys that he mentioned by name in his press conference. Now, you remember when Bill O'Brien was hired, he was a quarterback guru. He was an offensive guy, yet his entire tenure with the Texans, the offense never reached its full potential. They were never top 10 in scoring or top 10 in points. And it was clear that that was not what he was. He was not. Deshaun Watson was Houdini. Deshaun Watson wasn't, it wasn't a well-oiled machine. He was Houdini. What does Houdini do? Houdini unties himself and gets out of bad situations. The bad situation was Bill O'Brien. But if you look at last week, and let's just go each day you can see the DeMeco Ryans impact making sense. Subscribe, like, ride along. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. Appreciate you for coming through. Let's go to day one. Day one of the practices against the Miami Dolphins. This is courtesy of X. This was X on Twitter. The final play of the day. Jalen Petrie. Watch Jalen Petrie there. One of the guys that DeMeco Ryans mentioned. Let's watch him in day one. You know where this is going. Look at him jumping on it. Boom. Straight to the house. That was day one. You got to see Jalen Petrie do his thing. You got to see that. Day two, and really day one as well. One of the stars of practice was Christian Harris. Christian Harris was all over the place. Christian Harris was making plays like crazy. And we'll get to Christian Harris in a second because there was something that was said over the last week that was incredibly encouraging. But you see Jalen Petrie there. That's one of the three that he mentioned. Derek Stingley, day two. Derek Stingley was one of the best players of day two. Watch him run the route for the receiver. Look at that. Textbook right there. Derek Stingley. Miami Dolphins know who Derek Stingley is. Watch this. Derek Stingley. Got him. So Derek Stingley right there. Christian Harris, honestly, if you asked me who the best player was, like which defensive player had the best combined days, Christian Harris had a pick six in day one as well, and Christian Harris was all over the place. Christian Harris was barking at players. So you're seeing those three guys in a short time, and these are your guys that you have a lot invested in. Your first-round picks, your day two picks, and a coach that's a defensive-minded guy that should maximize and get the most out of defense. Christian Harris, he's starting to stick out. He's starting to look like a guy that could be a stud. Now, the Fred Warner thing, I still think that's a little bit crazy, but that's just kind of the excitement level. And quite frankly, he looked like that caliber of player against the Miami Dolphins. And it wasn't necessarily just what he did on the field, but it was what Tua said about him afterwards that really got me excited. Here was Tua talking to the media after practice, and listen to what he says about the interception that he threw to Christian Harris. Now, he chalks the Petrie interception down to a bad decision and one that he'd like to have back. But listen to what he says with that stank face. Listen to what Tua says about Christian Harris.
On the first interception, I think it's what I've done best is looking guys off and no looking throws into holes like that. I talked to Christian Harris, buddy, Alabama, and told me that, dude, you did that so much to us last year that like I was like, okay, just trust my drop in this area. And he's like, I'm not falling for it. And that's basically what happened. So it's good play for him. And that too, the mind game of that, it's like, wow, I never thought that you'd figure that out, that piece of the game out. So that kudos to him. And then on that last one.
On the last one, he just said he wanted to have it back, but listen to him. Christian Harris went up to him and said, I remembered you slicing us last year and I took note of it and I adjusted. Now there's a number of reasons why that's impressive. And I'm talking about why DeMeco Ryans, the impact was so significant last week with the guys that we were hoping that he could get the most out of. Number one, it's just natural football adjustments, natural football instincts, natural playmaking. That's one reason it's impressive. But number two is, and this is probably going to get you extremely excited about Christian Harris. Christian Harris is only in his fifth year of playing linebacker. I know that's kind of hard to believe because he started 3 years at Alabama for Nick Saban, and then he was a rookie last year, a day two pick for the Texans. But before that, Christian Harris was a DB. He was an H-back. He wasn't playing linebacker. He went to Alabama. He was an athlete. He was athletic enough and was good enough at chasing the ball and athletic enough and strong enough and big enough and all that to where Nick Saban played him at linebacker. This is his 5th year playing linebacker. Now, he could still end up being really, really good. And right now he looks good. This is only his 5th year playing linebacker. And he's already sniffing stuff out like that and sticking out. So the best thing that happened last week, you don't want to lose preseason games. And if the defense from first quarter to fourth quarter looks like it did as a whole over the course of the season, then that could be a problem. And it's really kind of familiar with what we've seen the last couple of years. But I didn't see Christian Harris out there making bad plays. I really didn't see Stingley and I didn't see Petrie. These guys are going to be out there when it matters most. And these are the guys that we were talking about when DeMeco Ryans was hired. And these are the guys that he mentioned by name as guys that he could get the most out of. And last week against the Miami Dolphins, when a very good football team came into town and really over the course of camp, those 3 guys, they shined. Subscribe, like, right along. Appreciate you for coming through. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. Preseason's going to wrap up at the end of the week. Then we're going to get the 53-man roster. Then we're going to have a little college football weekend with the NFL off. And then it's going to be on to Baltimore. So the time is going really fly. We're pushing a year on this channel. And I can't thank you enough for coming through. No matter what happens, though, whether DeMeco Ryans ends up getting the most of these guys or whether he doesn't, spoiler alert, I think he's going to. When it comes to this Texans stuff and this Texans digital game, we are all in this together. Appreciate you for coming through.
It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop.